Over the last few days, you've been studying a specific type of polygon called a triangle. Today, we will begin our study of a quadrilateral, which is a type of a polygon but with 4 sides instead of 3. The world of quadrilaterals is fun and fascinating, so we're going to dive right in. I know that you've been looking at the hierarchy of triangles, and this is our hierarchy of quadrilaterals, where we start with the quadrilateral, and then you can break that down to a trapezoid, a parallelogram, and a kite. These are different types of quadrilaterals. They're just getting more specific in its definition or in its attributes, in its characteristics. And then we can dive even deeper into or get more specific with the types of parallelograms with a rectangle and a square and a rhombus. And we can get more specific with a kite with our rhombus and our square. You're going to do a lot more work with this hierarchy tomorrow. Before we can really be comfortable with looking at the hierarchy, we really need to know the definitions, the attributes, the characteristics, how to classify quadrilaterals. So we're going to dig right on into each definition. So we have a trapezoid. A trapezoid is a quadrilateral with exactly one pair of parallel sides. So in case you don't remember, a parallel means that they are 2 lines that will go on forever and ever and never connect. They will never intersect, never touch. So we have the top and bottom here. This line will go on and on and on. The top line will go on and on and on, and they will never touch one another. That makes them parallel. Now, I know that AD and BC are not parallel because if I were to continue this line up and continue this line up, they would intersect around here somewhere. So since they will intersect, that means they are not parallel. So there's only one pair or one set of parallel sides, making it a trapezoid. A kite is a quadrilateral with 2 pairs of adjacent sides that are congruent. That was a lot of words, so let's unpack that. So we have adjacent, which basically is a fancy way of saying next to, and congruent, which is another way of saying equal or the same as. So you have these 2 red lines, AB and CB. They're next to each other, connected at this point B. And they both have 1 dash right here. That means that they're the same length. So since they're next to each other and the same length, then that would be 1 pair of adjacent sides that are congruent. We also have these blue lines down here, AD and CD. They're next to each other, connected at point D, and they both have these 2 dashes in it, meaning that they are, again, the same length or congruent. So that would be our second pair of adjacent sides that are congruent, making this a kite. And then you have a parallelogram. A parallelogram is a quadrilateral with 2 pairs of parallel sides that are opposite each other. So here you have the red lines. They are opposite, the top and bottom, and they're parallel. So these little arrows, since they both have 2 arrows, that means that they're parallel to each other. That's what that little symbol means. And then you have the 2 blue sides, the left and the right. They're opposite each other, and they're both parallel. Since they're both parallel, so there are 2 sets or 2 pairs of parallel sides, that makes this a parallelogram. Now you can get more specific in the types of parallelograms. One example would be a rectangle. The rectangle fits the definition of a parallelogram in that the opposite sides are parallel. Top and bottom are parallel, left and right are parallel, but it gets more specific. Not only are opposite sides parallel, but it also has 4 right angles. So that extra little piece of the definition makes it slightly different than just a parallelogram. It is a parallelogram, but because of those right angles, that also makes it a rectangle. And then you have a rhombus. Now the rhombus is a parallelogram. It is a kite, but we can get even more specific. It's a parallelogram because the opposite sides are parallel. It's a kite because the adjacent sides, the 2 top side lengths are adjacent and they're equal, and the 2 bottom sides are adjacent and they're equal. So it's a parallelogram, it's a kite, but since all 4 sides are congruent to each other, that makes it a special type of parallelogram, a special type of a kite. It is a rhombus. And then we have the square. The square is a type of parallelogram. It's a type of kite that has 4 right angles and all sides congruent. It's a rectangle and it's a rhombus put together. So has opposite sides congruent, all opposite sides parallel, all sides congruent, and 4 right angles.